Malala was a young girl from Pakistan who one day decided that she desired an education. She wanted to have the right to learn and become more than what she started as. This simple desire, this simple right, tore her apart from her community and created a movement that saw her looking down the barrel of rifles. Malala became a hero to many, and the movement grew. Edna Adan was a woman who simply wanted to have a hospital and a safe place for other women. And again, what was simply one person's desire became a movement, created ripples. These women, and many more, would be considered heroes. They're also considered outliers. Our video is about outliers. Outliers can break away from a community. They can be so enmeshed, and next thing you know, shatter the former rules, beliefs, and guidelines that the community held dear. Edward Snowden was a man who believed that knowledge should be shared, that the people had the right to know whether or not their government was spying on them. Edward Snowden, though controversial, was also an outlier, for he broke out of his community. But an outlier is not simply a man who decides to break out of his community. An outlier is not simply a girl who decides to learn, or a woman who decides to make a safe place for others. An outlier is not a man who, many years after laying down bombs as a child soldier, comes back and picks them up and removes them so other children may have safe places to play. These are not the simple definitions of an outlier. An outlier can also be members who are outside of the community attempting to join one. The LGBT community has tried to become an outlier, and in doing so has become such a strong example of an attempt to join the mainstream. Their desire to simply become your everyday person, to have the rights that everybody else has. Whether it is marriage or the rights therein, outliers may not define us, but they may broaden how we define ourselves. An outlier, therefore, can also be seen in veterans. These days, veterans are returning to a world that is constantly changing. They themselves removed from the community 6, 10, 20 years, now have to come back a different person to a different world. And although the struggles that they face may be very different from those that are trying to integrate themselves in other manners, it is still an example of an outlier attempting to join the mainstream. For they are also considered possible heroes, who now see a world far too different from what they are accustomed to, unwelcoming. These outliers show us what it is to be human. These outliers show us that we are more than what we think we are. We can become far more than what we thought we could achieve. Whether it is accepting those that were so different, or allowing those that were the same to expand what we call ourselves, we allow each and every opportunity to better and become better than what we were. Thankfully, these individuals are not unique. Although in and of themselves their actions are unique, they were no more different than you or I. And we continue to watch more and more outliers appear, more and more examples of human greatness define what greatness truly is, what it means to become human. And I believe as we continue to grow, as our society and civilization continues to expand, we will see more opportunities. And who knows where we will become 10, 15, 20 years from now. But I do know whatever it is will be very exciting. With these kinds of people as our examples, there's nowhere to go but up. How will you become the next Malala? How will you become the next Edward Snowden? Perhaps the next Edna Adan? How is it that you will break out of your community, find something that you believe to be a right, and then push for it, fight for it? How will you be the grassroots for a movement, the creation for something so much greater than yourself? Nobody starts off with a plan to become an outlier. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides that they will go through the struggle of breaking out of a community. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. That doesn't change anything. You can do it if you can see it. Where will you see rights being infringed upon? Where will you see someone not being given the opportunities they deserve? How will you allow these outliers into your community, and in doing so expand not only yourself but those around you? There is safety in numbers, and in doing so we increase our numbers, we make ourselves stronger, we make ourselves better. Because we are all greater as a whole the more we can incorporate. So the question now is, how will you become an outlier? How will you move yourself and your community forward into something it wasn't before? We hope this video has brought you the opportunity to think about this and consider where perhaps you yourself could move forward and become something better. With that said, just remember, no one wakes up starting a movement.